Welcome back, everyone, to Recorder on the Wall, where we are slowly but surely making our way through the entire Redwall Media catalog. Today, we will be covering episodes 4 through 6 of the animated Martin Warrior show. I'm Matthias.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Braden.
Didn't you say... Go ahead. I'll edit that out.
Unfortunately, Katie can't be here today. Back before this all started, I was on assignment in Noonvale. Now she's an assignment on Noonvale. So I'm sure we will hear from her later in the episode at some point.
Yes, she's going to ask people about the Ern Vo scandal of him hiding candy chestnuts.
Yes.
What did you know and when did you know it?
Where were you on the night of the 43rd?
So, as Matthias pointed out, we're back to cartoons. Yay! And we're covering 3 episodes because even compared to seasons 1 and 2, this is still more plot dense. Mm-hmm. So,
okay.
And I gotta say, this is still pretty faithful recreation of the book with only very minor changes, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So it certainly has my endorsement, and I'm kind of curious on what Netflix will do with this same material.
Yeah, I'm also curious to see if they will take any of the alterations that were present in this cartoon and try to kind of piggyback off of that. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit. Or if they will try to stay a little bit more faithful to the book.
There is one major change we will talk about here. And major, and I say in kind of like why it's notable, but we'll cover my opinion on it. But the short version is it doesn't really bother me, but I may be in a minority in that. So,
and I'll explain why it does kind of bother me when we get there.
So, episode 4, or, was it episode 30?
30. New friends and old enemies.
4th for this season, 30th overall. As we basically, and the opening tapestry screens, I got a good chuckle out of me because we do see Clog kind of upset. His ship kind of got, burned, and he didn't pay for fire insurance. So,
I mean, he doesn't pay for any insurance. Vermin HR has gone after him several times for this.
Well, he's probably going to need... I think one of his own people will need Vermin HR in a later episode. I'll explain when we get there. But we truly begin with Martin, Rose, and Grum clinging to a piece of flotsam, and Rose realizes, oh yeah, I had one job this whole time. Get my brother back. Where'd he go?
Not here. We have to be somewhere that's not here.
And Matthias, I saw you wrote this down in your notes too, so I'll let you take this next point.
Yeah. For some reason, in the dialogue, Martin indicates, hey, we need to swim east towards land. That means that they are out to the west. But if you look at the book, Marshank is on the east coast. So if they were going to swim east, that would take them out to sea. They've switched coastlines.
Let me quote a underrated DreamWorks animation here. You drank seawater, didn't you, Martin? So yes, if they follow Martin now, they're going to go deeper into the ocean. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if whoever was responsible for writing dialogue just didn't look at a map.
Yeah.
Right there in the book.
Or on how many fan-made maps, the official Redwall map and Riddler. Yeah. Yeah.
Which I have. And yes, it's on the opposite coast. Just this should not make me this irrationally angry, but it does. It's like, it's just these little details that they should be correct. They are not correct. Why are not correct?
That being said, we go flashback after Rose stands on Grum's shoulders, and I have to feel sorry for the guy. And we see land. We're gonna be okay. So, we go back to Marshank, and there's Droop, who is still a weenie, trying to whisper into a hole in the side of the villain longhouse, looking for Scalrag.
Yep. He's looking even shiftier than he did before. It's just like, dude, how do you look like more of a slime ball than you did in the previous episodes?
Much less, it's a very tactically stupid of him to just do this out in the open, but if anyone sees him talking inside to a random spot in the wall, yeah, they can literally walk over and see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Has happened, yes.
So, yeah, because one of the other captains walks up and basically is like, "Who are you and what are you doing?" And it's like, "I had this arrangement with Scalrag, and he took, and I can give you information like your prison pit's empty because the prisoners escape." And like, not that Batarang is subcontracts to the best minion placement agency, but wow, no one's noticed that a prison pit's been kind of empty this whole time.
Well,
yeah,
I can make an excuse for that because Batarang has been like, yeah, no food or anything for any of you. So in the Horde's mind, it's like, hey, we don't need to worry about feeding them. We don't need to interact with them. Oh yeah, and they're sick with the plague. They've got flurgy twinge.
Fair enough. And yeah, our intrepid captain realizes the prisoners are escaped and realizes he's going to have to tell the boss. Now, Batarang doesn't kill any messengers, right?
No.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure this wasn't on purpose, but I found it vaguely symbolic how he's standing there facing away from everything. I'm not paying attention.
Batarang, mean, right?
Yeah, Batarang.
Yes, he's looking very noble on the top of that wall top.
And aloof.
But I think it's weird when Hisk goes and looks down into the prison pit, we look up. It's like the prison pit has suddenly shrunk from like 12 feet in diameter to 6. How did it get smaller?
Cartoon magic.
Yeah. Well, Grum is not one to leave a job unfinished, so he filled back his tunnel back in, and he reinforced the walls of the prison pit.
Oh, okay.
It's the engineer in him, yeah.
Yeah, he just can't help himself. But not Grum, but we next go over to Feldo and Brome, who have reached land, and also Brome realizes, my sister's gone. Huh. Well, shoot. And Feldo corrects him several times, like, could you not sing loudly into the night? Just like those random set of thespians over the hall. Over the hill, rather.
Yeah, it's like, we're not that far from the place we just escaped from. Let's try and not rouse any suspicion. Oh, wait. Who are these people that are unaware that they're going to potentially arouse suspicion?
And instead of reconning what they are, who they are, and seeing if they have delicious food, we're just gonna straight up steal theirs. So okay.
Well, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other, because that food was kind of thrown at them indirectly.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we first get introduced to Bala and, of course, Roanoke. And we don't really have any other named parties here in the Roasted players. And when I mentioned previous episode that several characters would have a glorious mustache, first Luke, now Beloff.
Yeah, his facial hair is quite impressive.
Yes, it is. And Roanoke, let's be honest, she's the Constance model, just redressed and given a ponytail because it looks cool. So, I'm not saying it's not a bad look, but that's Constance by another drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And so yes, the joke within the players is Of course, Bala is eating during rehearsal. Roanoke throws the scrap he was eating at, which lands on Feldo's hand, and both sides go right for violence.
Because no one disrespects Belov's food. And Feldo's just like, a fight? Yeah, I'm not going to have me some of that.
What are you going to say, Bird?
Oh, just like actors, they're unpredictable.
I mean, I've been a community theater actor in my time, at least in the 4 times before this freaking dry dish fever. So yes, we are.
I also love their designs. Every one of them looks like they're wearing something quaint, rustic, but it's all very colorful, very much in the vein of, yeah, these people are wanderers, so they're going to wear either something that is super practical or something that is so just garish. How? Oh, it's because they want to grab attention. Duh, they're players.
Yep. Also, Roanoke actually has a semi-British accent here. So, in a Canadian-made cartoon about a British literature series, look, we have a semi-British accent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, their animation is very expressive. It's not the cleanest animation I've ever seen, but I mean, this was from that final era of, yeah, they're still doing hand-drawn animation for children's television series. So not quite in the Flash era yet.
Yep.
I can give it a little leeway.
Agreed. So that just leads us back to Martin, Grum, and Rose, who emerge on a kind of a rocky outcropping instead of a proper beach. They climb up, and there's a brief thing where it looks like Grum might fall, but of course he doesn't. And that's when they just get hauled up into nets. Never to be seen again. Oh, look, we've seen them again. And
there's a fantastic little moment, though, in the animation. I don't want to call it necessarily like 100% an error, even though it technically is. But as they get close to the water on their log, that the last like 3 feet, they just jump magnetically and attach to the side of the cliff. It's like, is this some secret bolt power I am unaware of, that they get close to land and they just and just stick right to it?
Yeah, possibly. It also may be because Martin can't die because he's integral to the plot.
Fair.
Yes. So that just leads then to Martin waking up in a cage, and thank God this only lasts 1 episode, because oh yay, the Pygmy Shrews. And if you thought they were bad if you thought they were bad in the book alone, and I haven't caught the audiobook for this, so I can't speak to that. Oh no, they are worse than you remember.
So they're actually better in the audiobook.
Sort of to your point, when she says like it's like talking to like infants, I thought she said it sounds like you're talking to nitwits.
Column A and B there.
Exactly.
Yeah. And now we have Pelham, who is now a girl.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a minute. I want to address that when we get to the changes from the book section.
Okay.
But yes, Pelham is a lady here. Okay, we'll roll with that. But yes, before we see the proper, like the Pygmy Shrews, the adults proper, or I should say adult. We'll get to that. We get to Badringer and Clog, basically parlaying and negotiating, and basically Clog has Scowrag ready to trade, and I'm like, okay, we'll think about this, but I'll give you my answer in the morning. But first, return Scowrag to me as a sign of good faith. And Clog's like, okay, no killing the messenger, right? Right? Scowrag is returned. And if you remember what happened to him in the book, stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
So we're come back to Palom, who basically says, "Hey, Queen Alabama, is that it? Forgot.
Yes.
Queen Alabama is coming, and she's very vain. She's short-tempered, and be very respectful when you speak to her. So, for those of you who haven't pushed Game of Thrones out of your consciousness, she's Cersei Lannister by another name. And oh my God, that's her look.
Yeah, it's
I had a pause. I was
laughable.
laughing so hard. This is the look they gave her. Oh my God. And for those of you, since this is an audio podcast, naturally, let me describe what we see. She is in a massive yellow tunic with a red cloak, or robe crossed over it, and wearing what basically is a seashell crown with feathers coming out of it, while one other pygmy shrew fans her everywhere she goes, or at least holds up an umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
It,
And yeah, the I don't want to call it a crown because it's not so much a crown; it's more like a coronet. But gold ring with a seashell mounted at the front with this giant seagull feather, just a single feather sticking out the top, and it looks ridiculous. It's about 2/3 her height, so it makes her look almost twice as tall.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Speaking of that,
dumb.
when I said that the adult with pygmy shrews, on rare occasion when they do group shots, you might see one that could be an adult. But for the most part, this isn't so much Queen Umballa as it is Miss Hannigan and escorting the orphans around.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, she's practically the only pygmy shrew adult we see from about 95% of the time. The rest are the kids.
And they are grating to listen to.
It's not just Dinger, although we'll get to him. It's all of them, so I guess they are really filling out the book here. But back to Umballa's look, like, even on the Redwall Wiki, we do see her dressed up in her finery there. And when the book's illustration, which is meant to be a little over the top and silly, does better than the cartoon, yeah, okay. Again, she's only in this episode so far. If the book holds, she'll be back for the final battle, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But
looking at the chapter art, because I pulled out my copy of Morton the Warrior just because.
mm-hmm.
Looking at her, she basically looks just like a normal shrew that we'd see in the rest of the series, in any of the chapter art there. But now she's like, well, she's holding what looks like a sword, but we know it's Martin's dagger.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like full-length sword, it's more like short sword. So probably comes up to about Martin's waist, which makes her a little bit taller in the show. But she definitely looks more queenly because the crown looks more crown-like and the robe looks more, royal robe-like.
How
Here
did
it's just like,
Bad Rang not find these people for slaves? Because they're not that
yeah,
far from Marshank.
and they're not that bright either.
Well, then again, maybe he was just protecting his interest because, well, you don't want slaves getting too smart for their own good. Yeah. Would you want to deal with pygmy shrews and order them around?
Yes.
No, I would not. I would avoid them like the plague.
So, fair enough. Now, we also see Palom is attached to what is called the Hobblewood, which is basically what keeps her from running. And we will see Martin, Rose, and Grum get their own. But I always kind of gathered reading the book that these Hobblewoods were fairly heavy, or at least bulky. And so it did slow them down, and, but here it doesn't look like it's that much of something to keep them from running away. Like, it wouldn't take that much force to either A, carry it and run, or B, break it on a rock.
And I'll again say this is intended for very young children to be able to watch. So they in the book, I always got the sense that it was bigger and heavier. Here it's, don't tie your brother or sister up to an obelwood when you're playing Redwall games and, get hurt
Yeah.
and then we get sued.
Okay, so we go back to what is arguably probably the most adult, in air quotes, scene in this season so far. If you remember from the books with Skalrag, he is literally put on the rack and tortured by Badrang for information.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you can't do that in a kid's medium unless it's Muppet Treasure Island. And you're Gonzo.
Yes.
Because he enjoys that.
He also enjoys being keel-hauled for some reason.
Yes. We'll have to... That's a story for another day. However, we see Skalrag is down in a completely laid stone floor and ceiling area of Marshank. And getting tickle tortured, which we'll get to in a second. But here's the thing. Every time I read that book or saw artwork on the book cover or even what we see just from wide shots of the fortress in the cartoon itself, and I posted one in our common Google Doc for people to see what I was talking about. Yes, there is a layer of stone that forms the base of the fortress with a wood battlement above that. Mm-hmm. But there's no basement, or at least I didn't think there was. Oh no, Skalrag's down in the basement here. And it's... so unless Badrang built a foundation, which he might have done, where is this? The best I can think of is that there's depicted in the cartoon itself, there's a tower section of Marshank with a stone base, and yeah, that could be it.
My best guess is, from a production standpoint, they probably had some unused backgrounds from the previous 2 seasons that were just like, we need somewhere that looks kind of dungeonish. Will this do? Sure.
I mean, for all we know, they took a Redwall scene and recolored it.
Yeah.
Which is probably what they ultimately did. And I'm fine with that. I'm not trying to be nitpicking to criticize. It made me do a double take like, no, that's not what Marshank is.
Well, I mean, Katie isn't here at the moment, so we have to pick up her nitpicking slack.
Indeed.
Speaking of which, there was one point I did want to make. In a previous scene, Badrang said he wants to be Lord of the Eastern Coast, which holds up to where he's supposed to be on the map.
No, Matthias will not let this go.
No, I won't.
So,
I'm not bitter, you're bitter.
So, Skalrag is being subjected to tickle torture. And obviously for a kid's cartoon, you can't use the rack because, what it is. Although he's pretty much... what he's tied onto is clearly meant to be a rack. That's not where I'm getting at. So, here's the thing. Tickle torture is very much a real way of torturing someone. And if you're listening to this episode, don't even go there, okay? I don't want someone saying, hearing me talk about think that because we're Dibbin friendly that, this is okay. It's not. It's not.
You can literally die from tickle torture. Yeah, you'll be laughing hysterically, but you will be in agonizing pain.
And unless your name happens to be the Joker, run along. So here's the thing. So obviously this is about the best they can do for kids. And Batarang's one and only question where he asks Skalrag isn't about Clog's forces or what kind of base they might have. He asks about the escaped slaves. I mean, that's important information. Yes. Is it pertinent to the problem at hand? No.
Tangentially.
Sort of, yeah.
It's like, Batarang, you need to rethink your priorities here.
I mean, it is a big security breach.
It is. It is. Yes.
I think what he's doing is trying to check to see if Skalrag's being honest with him, because if Skalrag is answering honestly, then at least there's a chance that he hasn't been turned by Clog. but he doesn't like the answer that Scalrag gave, even though from Scalrag's point of view, yeah, he answered the question perfectly correctly. So now this puts doubt in Batarang's mind that, yeah, Scalrag's been turned by Clog, probably.
Entirely possible. But of course, since Scalrag says there were 5 escaped prisoners, because he's counting Rose and Grum, Batarang doesn't take him seriously, thinks he's lying, and orders the torture to continue.
Yeah. Or to put it another way, tickle torture turns tongue-tied traitors towards talking truly.
Very good.
Nice.
So, back to the Pygmy Shrews. Martin, put Dinger down. Put Dinger down! But yes, even they're trying my patience just watching this cartoon.
I must admit, I did skip through these scenes a little bit more quickly than I should have, just because I could not take it.
If Jeremy ever comes back onto the show, you should ask him about the time on our other show we reviewed a Power Rangers Christmas special, because he sat there and listened through all the crappy carols they threw at the viewer. I muted the audio.
Oh no. Oh no. Now you've piqued my curiosity. I'm going to have to go listen to that. And it will probably hurt. Thank you. Thank you.
Suffice to say, he was not happy with the fact that I thought of using the mute button, and he did not. So, but back to the point at hand. Yeah, the Pygmy Shrews are just terrible. And yeah, don't need to spend too much on this. We do see Clog and Batarang agree to meet, with Batarang inviting them inside the gates until they can make a deal. And clearly, both leaders made an emergency order overnight to the minion service, because there's more on both sides.
Oh yeah.
And they pull the old fingers crossed behind your back treatment of, oh yes, I'm totally going to stick to both the letter and spirit of our agreement. Wink.
And their agreement as it stands is Batarang will use his troops and or slaves to refloat and refurnish the burned and sank Sea Scarab. And then after that, Clog will go out, get more slaves, and the slaves they get will be divided equally between both teams. And yeah, why do you both have your claws twisted behind your back?
It felt like no reason. Like, I know that you know that I know that you know that I know that you know.
Ad infinitum, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yes. That just leads to the Pygmy Shrews, and of course, a Gamut, aka Gull, snaps at Dinger, and oh no. Terrible.
I don't think it was ever established whether it was a gull or a boy.
Good. No, I had that coming.
Oh.
So yeah, and well, sorry, Dinger, we hardly knew you. Okay, what's for lunch? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that might have been a little in bad taste, but I'm sorry, Queen Alabama. You'll get over it, right?
Well, he's for lunch, right?
Yeah, that's the joke.
Yeah. Yeah, some squidgy stew, right?
Something like that. We, of course, by the time we get him seen grabbed and delivered to the nest, and by the time Martin gets up there to rescue him, darn it, he should have been Gull Chow. Like, hungry bird chicks don't wait and prep for dinner. They're gonna go for it. And of course, Martin agrees to save him, and goes up there and fights off the bird and tells Dinger to jump down. There's a net that'll catch you. And of course, Dinger's scared and he kicks him down. That's enjoyable.
That's very satisfying.
And of course, Martin kind of waits to jump when there's no reason to. He takes his time with this. Like, it might have even been a better use to just grab the kid and jump yourself, but okay. Of course, it's more dramatic, so they can go through a commercial break for this because that's what kids media does.
Except when it's on PBS when there were no commercials.
I know.
Except for. I'm pretty sure this did end up on syndication on some channel somewhere, though.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it was like watching the Magic School Bus growing up. Like, clearly, it was made for PBS, but even PBS, they had defined commercial breaks that it would fade out and fade right back in. But even as a kid, I'm like, oh, I guess another channel could put commercials there.
Yep.
So, yeah, Martin jumps back down, and actually that happens in a bit. So we're back with our Rose Hit players who have, of course, taken Feldo and Brom in. And are there 2 Celadines, or am I noticing that? Or I have that wrong?
Let me.
There are 2 squirrels, female squirrels, laying it on thick with Feldo. I only remember the one from the book.
I thought there were 2. I could be misremembering. Well, I mean, I have my book right here. Let me see if I can find it. Anyway, continue while I do searching.
Yep. Yeah. So yes, Feldo, kind of true to his book persona, doesn't really, pick this up. Like, he's like, okay. Although he does have a few moments where he looks at, like, the others and it's like, I need an adult.
Nope,
but
there are 2 squirrel maids.
Okay.
There's Celandine and Trefoil.
Okay, well, this is Celadine and Trefoil, respectively. They're not named, so, fair enough. And we get Ball basically proposes to Roanoke, like, what can we do about this? And if you have a problem no one else can solve, if you can find the players, you call the players. Dun, dun, dun.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah, it's an 18 joke if you didn't put it together, folks. So, yeah, the plan is the players are going to do they're basically come in and put on a show, and that's how they get the slaves out. And Brom points out, hey, Feldo and I won't even notice, and Roanoke literally slips a mask over his face. Nah, you're good.
Yep. It's like Clark Kent glasses, but better.
I would have laughed so hard if it was just glasses.
Or better yet, Groucho Marx glasses.
Yes. So yeah, we go back to Martin, who finally does the jump. And given that it's only Squidgies, Rose, Grum, Pelham, and maybe Olive the Queen.
And Bala.
Yeah, thank you. And Bala. Martin really should have gone Kersplat, but he gets down safe. But speaking of people who go Kersplat, yeah, hi Scalrag. In the book, if memory serves, he was just dead and being hung up as an intimidation tactic. Oh no, he ain't dead yet. Here.
Not yet, but he's about to be. You look over the gate, and he's hanging, and they've got feathers on the end of long poles, and they're tickling him as he's hanging from his wrists, as he's laughing hysterically. Clog walks out with Badrang, turns, walks away. The gate closes. You can still see the dangling rope, but it's behind the gate. And then you hear a sound, and then you don't hear Scalrag laughing anymore. He totally got shot by an arrow after the gate closed.
I just thought I didn't think he was hung by his ropes. He was just hanging on to the rope, and he just finally fell.
That would still probably be lethal.
An 8-yard workers' comp.
Yeah. But it's a good thing that Badrang finished filling out this life insurance policy on his employee. So.
Super useful.
Yeah. But yeah, Scalrag was just killed. And that, I mean, it's a kid's cartoon, but it's still a little dark. So, because even if it's off screen. And yeah, it's obviously why Batarang did it this way. He's trying to intimidate Clog. And even to his credit, Clog sees it, and maybe there's a little bit of pity there, but he doesn't let it get to him. Just like, oh, that's happening? Okay, whatever.
Mm.
And we never did find out what Clog wanted Scalrag to do. Oh well. And our final bit of this episode is Rose complimenting Martin like, you really were a hero there. And Martin at one point says we should have said, I should have, and what? He didn't. I'm going to cut all that out. Martin kind of, in my mind, Martin turns to her, he's like, are you sure I was saying I should have let him get eaten? Well, maybe a little. And yeah, the final bit here in the episode is the queen giving them their freedom. Let's be honest, though. If I'm right and it's just an orphanage run by one terrible person, yeah, I don't see how she can keep them there.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time, really.
Yeah. So that's the end of the episode. Still good. Still pretty close to the book, minus the one point we're about to talk about. And yeah, I've got no complaints here. Minus I just want to stab some of the pygmy shrews for being the pygmy shrews.
I mean, you could probably do some pretty horrific things to them in a very amusing way.
Yeah.
But this isn't that kind of show, and this show, as in this animated series, is not that kind of show, so we won't go there.
No. Now, there is the shrew dagger that Martin gets, but I want to touch that on a bit because it's not really pointed out as much as the book kind of reminds us that, yes, he's carrying this tiny little blade constantly. But when we cover it, I want to cover its size. But what I really want to cover right now, in what the Redwall fandom wiki points out in Differences of Martin the Warrior, number 1, in the book, Palom is male, but the character is female in the TV series. So I'm going to let Matthias talk about why this gets to him, but in a minute. But why it didn't really bother me per se is I can't honestly track down where I read this, so I don't even know that it's accurate anymore. I thought it was on TV Tropes. It's not. But I had read that showrunners changed Pelham from a guy to a gal to basically add more female presence, and I don't know how true that is. Now, if we actually go to the Redwall Wiki itself, lead writer Steve Roberts said the decision was, quote, a mystery. Although I will recall some debate over this, I can't recall the conclusion. Maybe it was one of those character compression decisions we often face, end quote. It doesn't bother me. Honestly, in the slightest. Not that I'm saying, I mean, Pelham's a nice character in the book. And the book version is great. He's a good guy, helps out the heroes, but the fact that he's changed into a gal for this doesn't really bother me all that much. However, Matthias might disagree. Matthias?
Yeah. I'm sure KD would probably have something to say along this same line, because I know that she's listened to the audiobook, and I remember growing up, I listened to this audiobook, the audiobook version of Martin the Warrior, like half a dozen times at least. So in my mind, I hear the voice actor for Palom, who is a very deep bass voiced male. So to suddenly, Palom talking kind of like this, to suddenly what's in the show is jarring. It doesn't sync up with the voice that I hear in my head. So, I mean, I get what they were probably going for, making sure that the hero party was balanced with 2 guys, 2 girls instead of 3 guys, 1 girl. It still feels weird to me. Because I get it, but I don't like it.
Fair enough. Brayden, any thoughts on that?
I mean, I haven't read the book in 20 years, so it didn't occur to me. I was like, oh, yeah, that's fine.
So the other changes that the fandom wiki points out, what I already mentioned earlier, with the tickle tortures versus, the rack. And Skywreg is killed above the gates of Markshank by using target practice, so for arrows. So I honestly think, at least from a kid's media point of view, the cartoon is a bit worse. Don't get me wrong, it's chilling to read his fate in the book, what happens, because, battering his poor HR skills. But the fact that we see it, it's wholeheartedly implied off screen. Yeah. For a kid's show, it's like that does its best to not really demonstrate the real realities of war while still having war. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think the cartoon made it worse somehow.
I think it's because if anybody who's ever been tickled for an excessive period of time, that's just like stop, and the person who's tickling you just they won't cut it out. Yeah, you start to like get short of breath, and this feeling of helplessness that just comes over you. Yeah, take that line, continue it forward a bit, and it becomes genuinely terrifying. So while, yeah, it's quote unquote kinder and softer than, a corpse, the implications are arguably worse.
Agreed. So, also in the book, after Martin saved Dinger's life by kicking him off the cliff edge, and that was entertaining, we find out Dinger comes out and tries to beat Martin with a stick. And the queen finally stands up as a mom and starts spanking him and calling him stupid. That whole ladder pit is cut out. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah,
it would have been satisfying.
Yeah. To see Dinger get a little bit more of a comeuppance, sure. But we weren't with the Pygmy Shrews long enough, thank God, to really begin to hate them more than we already did, because thank God it was only one episode.
Yeah, it's not quite Scarum levels of bad, but it could have gotten there.
And lastly, the only other change the fandom wiki outlines is that the rehearsal of the players, the lyrics are shortened down from the book, which is fine. Yeah. It's fine. Animation's expensive, kids. I get it. So that goes into episode 5/31.
The play's the thing.
It's a little Shakespeare. So we open here with our foursome now free, and we get just the smallest hint of Palam's backstory, saying that when she was taken prisoner, she was blindfolded by the shrews, so she doesn't know where even if she could escape, where to go. Like, you go into that, because the book didn't, and I've always been curious about that. But no,
I want to point out, before I get too much further, in this very first scene, you see the four of them walking along the edge of like a cliff. The art is really pretty. It's like, I want this as a desktop wallpaper, just without the characters, because it's that pretty.
And Grum brings the mood down by saying, "Oh, I don't think I'd ever see Moonveil again." I'm like, "No, you will, because I've read the book." But he brings down the mood.
It's like you're with the main character. You are going to go to your destination.
Yep. So, but Martin, it's kind of a moment for Martin to inspire them. And we go back to Clog, who's talking with his people, and he's like, he got to the point. Of course he's going to betray Batarang, but he's not going to do it until the ship gets rebuilt. Which,
and this episode, it finally hit me what Clog sounds like. He sounds like Mr. Krabs.
Oh no! Oh, if we ever to recast, okay, Netflix, if you're listening, cast Clancy Brown as
Yes,
Clog for your adaptation.
please, please.
Oh my god, I think that would be the best best recasting ever.
Hello, I hate Batarang.
Oh, but yes, we could. So yeah, Clog's basically yes. I'm gonna wait till my ship is rebuilt before I betray Batarang, as you do, because
Mhm.
these guys just can't get over whatever mutually thinking better than both. Can't even agree on it. So Droop is now brought into Batarang's office. It's a time for his employee review. And Batarang points out, I've been hearing that you've been my spy. Go ahead, have this very nice food while I interrogate you. And he has a disappearing and reappearing plate. Did anybody else notice this?
Yeah.
No.
His plate's there in one scene, one shot, and then it's gone in the next, and then it's right back. So
It's like Kung Pao's clothes change.
yeah. And Batarang is going out of his way to intimidate Droop, but I can't help but think, in practically terms, a honey over vinegar situation would have worked better here. Like maybe it leave the threat implied, like, oh well, I don't want you to disappoint me like Scalrag. That's all you need to say.
Mm-hmm.
But no, he's kind of gets a little yelly, a little intimidating, because he's the bad guy.
I like the fact that as he's leaning over to intimidate Droop and he just starts playing with this dagger, it's like, this reminds me so much of every like Disney Saturday morning cartoon villain I've ever seen ever. That the posture is just very Disney. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Of course, Droop, to save his butt, points out, Batarang, yeah, the slaves have a cache of weapons. Totally do it. It's in the compound. I've seen where it's buried. It's under Tolgru's bed. And Batarang's like, okay, fine. And he goes out, and this sequence is straight from the book, and my god, it's still entertaining.
Oh, it's so good.
And did anyone else notice there's maybe 24 slaves at the top? More like 18.
Here, let me freeze frame and I'll do a quick count.
Mm-hmm. So
Let's
Batarang
see.
calls them out, and he goes through the lane trying to intimidate them, and he calls out a few slaves who are the ringleaders of this rebellion by name. He does Hilgorst, he does Barkjon, he does Keela the Otter, and then which one is you? Is Tilgru the Otter? Like, well, it's only the other otter you have. And then
I count 12 in this screenshot. I know there are more.
mm-hmm. We see more
the,
during the escape, but yes.
yeah. If you look at the one picture you attached, the faraway shot of Marshank, it looks like there are actually like 2 or 3 different slave pens. So we can assume that there are 12 specifically in this one, and probably close to the same number in the others. So upwards of maybe 3.5 dozen slaves total.
Yeah. So Batarang comes in.
Also,
He named
outnumber like the minions.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So as I said, Batarang, he's going through this, and he orders Tolgru to dig up under her sleeping mat to where the cache of weapons were allegedly buried, and of course they're not there. Batarang quickly gets frustrated with this and orders 2 of his own to dig where she was digging. And they're very efficient diggers, because before this, I mean, Tolgru is maybe only about ankle deep in dirt, and then those guys are like shoot down like a full foot or more from that.
Because they're actually healthy and they eat good, or I should say, better food than the slaves.
Yeah, that's another thing. We never actually see the slaves go to the fields that feed Marshank that are in the books, but again, animation's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
fine. And yes, of course, Batarang can't find the weapons. Gets frustrated and tells the slaves to go back, and then takes his frustration out on Droop. Oh no.
Here, where's my tiny violin?
Yep.
Oh, it's so small I've lost it. Oh well.
So yes, as we go back to Martin and his group, who are like, it kind of a very odd dialogue chain where Martin admits to Rose, yeah, someone's following us, and Grubb knows it too, and she's like, why didn't you say anything? Well, I didn't want to scare anybody. Are you? And Rose assumes he's talking about her. Like, oh, you're trying to keep this from me? Like, no, I'm not trying to scare you. So, Pelham.
Mm-hmm.
Pelham is very much a Plato's Cave allegory here, because it's kind of what we can view. We get most of her life was probably as a slave to Pig and Shrews, because she's the most panicky of the foursome.
Skittish.
Yes, better word.
Oh yeah.
But of course, Pelham was like, someone's following us, and oh my god, I'm scared. And Martin's like, yeah, can we stick together? We're safer that way. No, do whatever you want. I'm falling off the cliff.
Wait. Pelham was Cynthia Vole's understudy.
With a less annoying voice.
Yes.
And they hold on this shot of Grum, Martin, and Rose looking over the cliff down at Pelham, turn a second, for a good 3 to 5 seconds. Like, if they're just standing there, like, shocked on their face that, oh no, Pelham fell off. Do something.
They're weighing their options.
Yeah, I guess so. So Pelham is very much the cliche of just holding by one hand to a random tree branch somehow growing out of the cliffside.
Where did two of those things come from?
Yeah, it's a very good question.
Are they like a species that only grows out of the sides of cliff faces, but they are all extremely weak, a la balsa wood, that, if they have pressure placed on them for more than just like 10 or 15 seconds, they start to break?
Ah, yes, the species Coyotus splatus.
Ah, okay, yes.
But yes.
The subspecies Acme, right?
Yes. I'm glad you got that.
Yes.
But yeah, their grand plan to get Pelham up as the branch, of course, is breaking, is for Rose and Grum to hold on to Martin's feet and for him to reach down and pull her up. And there's a very cliffhanger / Ace Ventura 2 moment where it focuses on just Pelham's very scared eyes. If you know the scene I'm talking about, good for you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so I was thinking they were like, we need a rope, and I look at them, and all their models are wearing rope belts.
That kind of ran where my mind ran too. It's like, so do they make a rope out of their belts? Because it's right there.
Yeah.
That'll take too long. No. The branch is already cracking. We're on the clock here, people.
So we'll just stand there and look at Pelham's situation for a good 3 seconds.
Yeah, do something. Don't just stand there.
And yeah, of course they pull Pelham up and she's okay. But this is where the Rosehead players put their plan into action by first having Bala basically straight up call out and later enter Clog's camp. And Clog, I guess it was never said on the show here, Clog had taken food and supplies off the ship before staging his little invasion, but I guess he had that foresight. And of course, this is straight out of the book. Bala is very complimentary to Clog, almost overly so, and he uses powder to keep throwing into the fire to cause it to flare up green. He's just using Feyor's wind out of Zelda, frankly. But
well, he's using the same stuff that Slagar used in season 2, except they had leftover stock and they just had to get rid of it.
Because the Harry Potter prop shop wasn't going to take that back. So yeah,
but Bella proceeds to give a grand show of various classic stage magic tricks, like pulling an extra long ribbon from his mouth. Only this one has a flag attached to it that has Clog's face attached.
Yeah, how did they knit that so fast? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe we could nitpick it.
No. I opened the door for that one. So yes, of course Bala under the name Tibar, aka Rabbit backwards, because he's the magic rabbit. And sir, you're underselling yourself. You're a hare.
Well, hair backwards would be era, and I don't think that would sound great.
Yeah, I know. So and of course, Clog is totally taken with this, and he totally trusts him. And when Bala's first asked, "What is this? One of Bad Ring's lot?" I mean, not to be specious, but he's a hare. But okay.
Yeah. The profiling seems a little unhair to me.
So, yeah, when one of Clog's men rightfully questions him, like, "You are trusting this guy awfully fast, Captain." And he's like, "Yeah, fine. He called me Sweet Cloggo." And I had to screen cap this. Because that is a face of a rat who needs to put in his 2 weeks right now. And if you, I don't know if you saw it on the Google Doc, or I can put it in the chat here. But I mean, I had Ronnie and put this on the podcast Twitter because I was laughing so hard at seeing this rat's face. It's like
it's very much Looney Tunes inspired. Of just like this sudden reaction of what?
That is a rat who needs to put his resignation in right now before it gets him killed.
The job's getting to him finally.
Yeah. So moving along, goes back to the player's campsite. Who Bala is basically, he's like, he needs to wash the vermin grog out of his mouth, and says he wants 3 meals for it. And yes, hares eat a lot. We know this joke.
Yes.
So the next scene is an introduction of our one seer for this book, and we'll get to her in a moment. But our foursome keeps pronouncing the word scone a lot differently than I thought it was pronounced.
Well, that is like the proper British way, right?
Apparently, because I even reached out to a British contact of mine to find out. Like, huh? And
the way you sound like a spy, a British contact.
What? I've been on the internet for way too long. I've made friends with people across the pond. So, but they're pronounced it in this series like how can I say this? Scam? No.
Scone.
Yeah.
Scun.
Scone.
It's a scun.
Yeah. And I've always said it's scone, so I've never heard it pronounced this way.
Yeah,
for
some
like
reason,
definitely incorrect, but they do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Because
again,
you have to make it sound as like stereotypically ambiguous British accent here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fine. It just took me for a second. I'm like, wait, do they mean scone? But yeah. And this is again straight from the book because the character in question throws scones at the main characters until they ask for drinks. And another pronunciation that I guess I got wrong growing up. Matthias, just for clarification, how did they say this character's name in the audiobook?
Polikin.
Okay, so I've had it wrong in my head this entire time. Got it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pol-E-kin.
For the life of me, until I had to watch these episodes, I thought it was Polkeen. I honestly did. Okay, not the first time.
At least it's not. You're not saying palanquin, and it's like that would be very wrong.
So, Polykin obviously is like, oh, you guys are good creatures. Come onto my treehouse. I don't know. And even Grump's like, huh, a molar in a tree. But yes, she serves a nice food, and we get our second seer in this cartoon. But they don't really go deep into it, at least compared to what we saw with Magnus. And even Magnus was not that, they didn't go that far with it.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, Polkin's, she gives them a general idea of like, hey, I know your brother's fine, and here's what you have to do your thing. And another screenshot I had to take, because if that's not Cheshire Cat inspired, I'm not sure what is. When they ask her kind of a, hey, you know, a kind of a very leading question of where she can be snarky back, that's her big smile.
'Twas Brillig and the slithy toes, did gyre and gimble in the wave. Old Mimsy where the bora goes, and the mome wraths outgrave.
Yep. So, and yeah, suddenly the series remembers, oh yes, Rose can sing. That really hasn't been brought up so far. But this episode and the next one finally bring it up. That, yes, not only can she do the eagle screech, she can sing really freaking well, because they've heard their thank you and farewell to Polykin. And the episode literally ends with Polykin, spoilers, saying that she's not going to see all of them again.
Foreshadowing. Rose dies.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Who could it possibly be?
I don't know. Rose dies.
Hmm.
Sorry, something in my throat.
Yeah, something Druish, I think.
I was almost hoping when she called him Martin the Warrior, I was like, just roll credits. Roll credits. We're good.
Martin the Warrior, that's got a nice ring to it. That just leads us, again, episodes 5 is fine. Yeah, I really don't have any real complaints. But the core differences from the book, at least according to the wiki, Palom almost falls to her death. In the book, this scene doesn't happen. So let's spice this script up. Is basically what this is. And the other 2 points. When the four stay with Polykin, she tells Rose the directions to Noonvale, and in the book, this doesn't happen until the full next day.
Mm-hmm.
Again, minor. And then lastly, Martin, Rose, Grum, and Palom leave the very next day. In the book, they stay for a little while longer. Which, can you blame them? This lady can cook phenomenally, and they're kind of safe here.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so that just takes us into episode 6/32, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Freedom and monsters.
I wonder if that monsters part will come up.
Probably not. It's probably just a vague literary allusion.
So, episode 6 begins with Martin straight up has the shrew dagger, who he's using it to cut branches away as they walk forward. And the book goes out of its way to point out that little shrew blade in Martin's hands is pretty much a dagger. In the cartoon, that's a dirk.
Oh yeah, it should be a stick.
It's bigger than it should be. Not that it's a huge point, but okay.
Well, I think it's been scaled up because, the pygmy shrews were somewhat scaled up.
They were. And are literally before we get into like the first major break, it's like, where's Grum? Oh, he heard fresh water, so he rushed ahead. Gosh, what is that ominous buzzing? And in the background you can hear, ow, ooh, ah, ee, ah. Like, I hope he's okay. Like, you don't hear that. Oh, okay.
Nicolas Cage impression.
Oh
I mean, I put that joke in my notes.
Of course.
Oh, but we go in, and of course, Grum is trying to get honey, and he's being attacked by bees, and that is a massive hive.
Oh yeah.
Like, a conventional bees would take years to build something that big, and then just all of that honey, just like it is several gallons of honey that just suddenly are on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Grum, what did you do?
Well, he probably deserves it.
And
He
these
goes,
bees are like flying in formation. It's really rather impressive.
And of course, the bees not only attack Grum, they attack Pelham and Martin, but Rose is fine. And none of you get to make a Jupiter Ascending joke because I still have not forgiven that movie for wasting my money and time. But Rose is just completely unharmed by the bees. She's just sitting there. What? You guys are okay, right? Oh, they're not attacking me because apparently they like my voice, so I'll sing and they'll be fine.
Like there was almost no evidence for that, but it worked.
Sure. Let's go with that.
Yeah. And at one point, Martin blushes when he's talking to Rose. Aww. It's so cute. Story properly continues with our players and these totally not former slaves guys who are dressed up like a frog and a fox. And Batarang is kind of cranky here that Clog brought a traveling theater troupe to come be entertainment. I'm like, okay, Batarang, you'd probably get bored in a fortress day in and day out. Just saying,
I doubt any of your horde beasts are capable of playing any sort of musical instruments. So, I mean, you don't even get somebody capable of, I don't know, singing the Jolly Captain.
So, and I noticed Clog is kind of protective of his not rabbit friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he's vouched for him. He's like, oh, Batarang, it'll be fine. And Batarang's behavior about this is almost jealous. Like, that Balor has a friendly relationship with Clog. Like, I don't know what happened between you guys, but go, grow up.
And it's clear that Clog is going through, I almost want to say juvenile regression. He's having the time of his life. He's like a 6-year-old at a birthday party, and he's the guest of honor.
Yeah. So the plot here is that, and it's all stage magic to their credit, that the not Feldo, who's Fox, is going to be trapped inside the box because they use that rhyme, and he'll totally disappear. And do not pay attention to that badger with the massive cloak.
Oh, that law steals Batarang's. Cut this part. I'll start over. Bella steals Batarang's glass of wine, quickly drinks it, and then goes to throw the contents at Batarang, and it's just a bunch of leaves that fall out.
Mm-hmm.
And the look on Batarang's face is hilarious. It's like, once again, very surprised Disney villain.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, they don't put Feldo in the box, obviously, but they make the vermin think they did. And prove he's gone. And Batarang's like, oh, he's gone, huh? So you won't mind if I do this. And he sticks his sword in the box. And even his own troops are like, dude, what is wrong with you?
And then we get an animation error. 1 sword, 2 sword, 3 sword, 2 sword.
Red sword, blue sword?
Yeah, red sword, blue sword. We see after Batarang puts his sword in, suddenly there's a second sword in there. And it looks an awful lot like Clog's sword. After Belot nicks Clog's sword and then he sticks it in, it goes back to being just the two of them. It's like, okay, where did the third sword come from?
And Bello to his credit is like, hey, bloodthirsty vermin horde, you want to stick your weapons in the box and not have to pick them up later when we're escaping?
Absolutely.
So they do, and yeah, it proves that the box halfway collapsed. And yes, there's obviously no fox in there. Ta-da! I'm sure the fox will never be seen again, and that said fox goes right to the slave pen and gets jumped.
I will say the use of stage magic was absolutely perfect. I have learned a lot about how a lot of that stuff is done, and the techniques that were being used. I could tell how each of those tricks would have been done in real life. It was spot on.
Oh, nice.
So we get to Rose and Martin, who are keeping watch because that's what they should be doing while the other two sleep. And yeah, it's just a nice little conversation. Back to the slaves. Yes, hey guys, it's me, Feldo. Ow, ow! Why are you hitting me? Ow! Yes, they realize it's Feldo, and we're like, okay, we're gonna escape now. And correct me if I'm wrong. In the book, don't they go through the prison pit?
I believe you're correct. Yeah, they. It's where was it?
Well, he finds that in the TV version here, Kilo says basically we've loosened enough stone here at the top to push out and jump down to the ground outside the fortress. And Ballo is smart enough in his own players to have put a mattress there for people to land on. So
I'm going back into the book.
Take your time.
So how did they actually escape?
As they start moving people out, of course, Droop comes up and it's like, the slaves are escaping. And Droop, if you had the second, if you had more than the one brain cell, you could figure out you could leave right now and be free of all of this.
Oh no, he's totally invested at this point.
Apparently, it's some cost fallacy because, of course, he goes and tattles on the escaping slaves because he's a weenie.
Okay. I found it here at the beginning of chapter 18. Feldo and Kayla take 2 logs from the palisade, laying them against the back of the fortress main wall to form an easy way up to the top.
Oh, okay. So it's more or less what's depicted.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Kind of, sort of, maybe, not really.
Yeah, there's some changes. But we do see a point where an old grandmother basically hands her grandkid the Feldo and says, take him, because she's told only the fittest can survive the drop. I'm like, if it's death to the drop or death to the slavers, I'd risk it. Honestly.
A very good point. I just started thinking Darwinism, but yeah.
And in my eyes, it's like, wait, you're having them jump onto like this straw mattress. Why can't you have, the first couple that managed to get down there, like lift it up and do like net catch?
Mm-hmm. Because then you couldn't have that dramatic point.
Yeah.
So, and of course the actors, now that both vermin squads are alerted that the slaves are escaping, are like, well, time for I like this, time for plan 2. So they're defying the usual trope of plan B.
Mm-hmm.
Which plan 2 is just run away. But yes, and again, we've said this in series multiple times, but we have just how strong Badgers are that Roanoke is able to pull a cart with that many people in it.
And literally go bowling right through a huge group of horde rats and just knock them away like 9 pins.
Mm-hmm. Didn't they put the bowling sound in the... did I get to catch that? Of course they did. So, and of course, Droop, being an idiot, as well established in a weenie, decides to threaten Bark John, and with taunting Feldo while doing it. Oops! Spear in your gut! Although that's... all we see is Feldo throwing the spear. And then you see, like, Droop's hand. One shot to imply he's dead.
Yeah, Droop is the worst, and nobody feels sorry for him.
Yeah. I just pointed out to Mr. Dead Corpse there, you could have gone with them. You could have been free of all of this and walked away, and no one would have cared.
Well, maybe no one, but yeah.
At most, they would try to make him feel guilty for walking away from the later, angry actor troop turned fighters. But, yeah, if he's looking out for himself, this was not the way to do it. Heck,
I just had a thought pop into my head. If we're gonna do a fan casting, I don't care that he's dead. It just perfect actor. I want Droop played by Edward G. Robinson.
what did he play?
He played a lot of early color films as basically the Droop of the conniving weasel backstabber. I'm gonna get mine.
Ah, noted.
Does look familiar.
You'll have to show us off air. So
Yeah,
Yep.
sure.
And Hilgors, Mr. Hedgehog with a stone, still goes out like a boss. He basically buys time for the main group to get away, except Keela stays. So, and yeah, he does go down fighting if we don't even see it. So, and this ends with Batarang shouting to the heavens that I'm surrounded by fools, as his minions follow the slaves out of the thing, and then other minions come around the fortress and they land on each other and start fighting over it. Well, Batarang, maybe you should have hired a better minion service.
As Katie pointed out last time, it's the same actor who did Clooney. So, fools!
You have
It's
a
the
point
same
there,
energy.
sir.
Porridge, fools, who can tell?
Yep. So our final bit in this episode is back with our foursome who have come across the Mildrop.
Murdop.
Oh, Murdop, sorry. Murdop, and who is threatening death if they come forward. And Martin, to his credit's like, yeah, I'm not dealing. Yeah, I don't have time for this, and charges right forward. Like, yeah, whatever. Before that, he's like, yeah, I'm Martin the Warrior. I'm not afraid of you. I have killed many warriors. And then you get the other members of his foursome. Well, I'm Rose, and I'm totally a warrior. See my eagle screech, which she does.
Which is still impressive, so could work.
I mean, having stock audio files, so.
Oh, totally.
And I think is it Grum or Pelham who does their own? Ah, I'm impressive.
I think it's Grum.
Yeah, I think you're right. And then she hears here's some sort of I can't think of the word.
Scuffle.
Scuffle. She hears some sort of scuffle going forward, and it's like, oh, Martin is in trouble, and goes for it. And for a lady used to traveling through the woods, she trips a lot, like 2 or 3 times in the space of about 3 feet. And she's confronted with what is obviously a fake puppet, but in the heat of the moment, she thinks it's a real monster and screams, and that's the end of the episode.
I mean, yes, it's obviously fake. It's still kind of creepy.
Oh, I'm not denying it's not creepy. So, yeah. And that's the end of episode 6. So, again, this is still pretty close to the book. And the minor differences here are there's only 3 listed by the official in a wiki that in the book, Droop doesn't try to kill Barkjohn, and Fildo kills him as he tries to escape the battle. And it's really not that big of a difference, but I mean, Droop dies. I don't know. I guess they just tried to make him a little more villainous in this case. Because animated Droop didn't have to try to be on Batarang's side. He could have literally just said, slaves are escaping and gotten out of the way. Or, as I pointed out, he could have chosen to escape on his own rights. But he actively tries to fall on the side of Batarang and his troops and gets killed for his efforts. So, question for you guys. If Droop hadn't been killed here, how would that would have gone for him in your theory here? After this is all said and done, most of the slaves are gone. And do you think Bad Dragon would have been grateful?
I think
No.
yeah. I think it would have gone very badly. It's like, and the whole point in having you be a spy is to help me keep in control. I lost control. Somehow this is your fault. I don't care
Right.
that there were outside actors. This was your fault because you're the only one here that I know that was actively, trying to help me in this case. Therefore, you're responsible. Off with your head.
Yep. And let's say Bad Dragon didn't take any action against him. The second Droop would have gotten back to the slave compound. What do you think the remainder would have done to him?
That's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Even if it's only the old people left, when you get enough old people ganging up on you, it doesn't matter that they're old.
Oh no. That would have been definitely a bad point for him. So,
very Scar in the height.
And the thing is, Bad Dragon wouldn't have cared. Sir, one of the slaves killed one of their own. It was Droop. Huh? Who? Oh, yeah. Oh, well. Other 2 points. Go ahead.
Droop, that's the sound his body makes when it gets flinged over the wall.
Yeah. So, the other 2 points. Palin goes with Martin to save Grum from the bees. However, in the book, he stayed behind. So, okay. Minor point. And lastly, the player's performance was shortened in the episode. Again, for time. I get it. So, yeah. Those are the next 3 episodes. Oh no, this is still pretty good material, and I am still, every time I see the 2 screen caps I caught of people's facial reactions, I'm laughing my butt off at that.
Mm-hmm. Very much. You could turn this stuff into internet memes.
You
easily.
Really could.
There are so many points where I was thinking to myself, if I were to, advance 1 frame at a time, I could get to just the perfect frame where it's like, I could do something with this.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
But yeah, that's the next 3 episodes. And for the next one, we'll do another 3. Now I have to figure out if we're going to do like 4 episodes for the finale, because that's still a lot of material to cover.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we could always split it up 2 and 2.
We might do that if we want to, especially if we want to artificially extend this out to April for some extra guests that might be coming on.
Interesting. Foreshadowing.
It almost might be like another Redwall podcast, and I are doing an episode exchange.
Almost.
Almost. Could be. Nah, we would never do that. Since when have we ever done that before?
Oh, Give a Mouse a Dagger, Abbey Archives, and Fox Penmanship.
Oh, yeah. Really? Right. Yeah, that. Yeah.
So that being said, I did check before we started recording. Instead of this thing where I pad this out and while these guys entertain you, yeah, we don't have any new ratings, and and as Katie would like to say, we're still perfect, all 5 stars.
Yay.
But if you want to listen to us, you can find us at recorderonthewall.com, our Twitter as at ROTWPOD. Our common Gmail is rotwpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all the major podcasting services, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, whatever Google's is, and Spotify. And I'm sure all the other little guys who like to grab my podcast feed and host it on their service, hey, you know what? You still download episodes from me, so no worries.
And you're also active on Ars Eulalia and the Redwall Forum.
That too. Yes, I am. And I just want to point out, I haven't gotten a chance to read through it ever yet, but the Redwall forums just put out their own Hamilton thing.
Oh no, that was the wiki.
Oh, wiki, excuse me. Yes, the wiki put out their own, basically rewriting Hamilton songs around Redwall characters.
It's remarkably good.
I need to sit and listen to it. So,
as somebody who has not seen Hamilton, but I have some idea. Yeah, I liked it.
Watch the Disney Plus version. But if you've never listened to the soundtrack before, I would recommend turning on subtitles because it's very fast.
Oh yeah.
That being said, I'm Pete.
I'm Matthias.
And I'm Braden.
And we'll see you next time, folks.